Hi, Sam. Welcome to the group today. It's going to be really good. We're going to be talking today about balance and boundaries. So, Sam's going to be talking about that, and we're going to be sharing this across both of our platforms because we feel it's really of benefit and of interest to all of you to help you with your health concerns. So, we'll start with you first, Sam, if you want to talk about your boundaries and really what tips and things that you think that are really good for everybody, and we'll just get chatting.
Yeah, I love our chats, Jackie. Thank you so much for having me back. Yeah, boundaries. I mean, this can work for anything, can't it? It can work for your energy, whether you have strong boundaries to protect your energy in terms of self-care, work and life balance, but it can also really apply with your relationships. And, I work very closely with women and we do a lot of relationship work. So I'm always often very much talking about boundaries with protecting your energy from negativity. So I have a specific method that I'm going to share with you today, that I walk my clients through. And I think really you can apply it to any area. So when we're thinking about balance, as you were saying, Jackie, in self-care, they both interlink. It's the same thing. It's about you being in control of your energy and your time and your values and protecting your boundaries and anybody that might be overstepping those. So, you can often feel quite pressured, can't you, Jackie? How do you feel about got to show up and I've got to do this event and this social thing and feel like you need to be invited to this, but actually you're exhausted?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's, we were talking about it earlier, weren't we? There's so much pressure, especially if you're women in business as well, to have this many likes or this much percentage of seeing your post and looking at all those algorithms and those insights. But actually, is that what it's really about?
Mm. Yeah, protecting yourself and your boundaries with social media is huge, when you are a woman in business, and the engagement fight to be
Yeah,
seen, and how much energy you're pouring into that when it's actually meaningless. And engagement is entertaining people. How many of those people are your clients?
yeah,
Um, and you want to protect yourself so that you don't feel overwhelmed, exhausted, and then want to come off the platform for a month, because that's what, if we're not protecting our energy and our boundaries, we go up and down, we have a really good week, we chuck everything at it, and then we have to come off because we've done too much and
yeah,
we've overwhelmed ourselves because we are not thinking about and controlling our energy.
yeah. And whereas if we were doing that, then instead of having that overwhelm and that burnout of I can't take social media anymore, we right that I've done my bit. I'm happy with that. I'm content with that. And we get on, and instead of having all those ups and downs, we're keeping that even keel, which helps us create that balance that we were talking about. So boundaries are so important to be able to create that, whether it's an energetic balance, whether it's a self-care balance, um, or just for our own mental health, having that balance of I've done what I need to do. Now I'm going to have my time, my self-care time, or whatever that entails for you, whether that's time with family, time just doing some cooking, or something that you love to do. But having things in their proper
Mm.
place means we get more contentment and more enjoyment out of life.
Absolutely. And you and I, Jackie, we can talk about this because we've been doing it for the last couple of years and we've failed at it as well. Like
Yeah.
we've totally done it the wrong way and completely exhausted and overwhelmed ourselves. And we've learned
Yeah, exactly. When you thought
from
you
that
had,
how not to do it.
yeah, when you feel like I haven't posted enough times today to be seen, or people have seen my message or read my message. And that's not true. People are reading. Just because they don't comment or like or whatever doesn't mean they haven't seen it. Um, and as long as we're giving out the value that they need,
Mm.
then that's going in and that's helping people. And I think that's important for us to remember. And that happens across all walks of life, whether you're in business or not,
Mm.
even with your children. if you're giving them value and you're sharing with them and helping them and showing them how to love and how to have all of these boundaries, then in turn you're doing something that's really valuable and important for them.
Absolutely. And I love it when I have a post now in my own group on my website, because I came off social media, where nobody comments, because I know they're taking in the important information and they're protecting their energy.
Yeah.
Unless they really want to contribute or say something. I love the fact that my ladies are learning. They're learning to not fall down that hole.
Yeah.
So I have just a little tip I wanted to share with you. I use the word pause, Pause. I created this because it really helped me to stop and pause. First of all, in the action of pausing, we can stop and slow ourselves down. But for every letter, there's a different stage of setting up good boundaries for yourself. So I'll just talk you through what those steps are. So with our P is to protect yourself. So I usually do that by having a visualization and just visualizing a bubble around me. So powerful when you use visualization techniques. So if something has come at you, whether it's a negative relationship, a comment or not, or something that usually would upset you, you just take a moment to stop, breathe, pause, and just visualize that bubble. I am safe. This is my space. This is my space to stop and think about this before I react, because often we can find ourselves reacting.
Yeah.
And I think that causes a lot of friction for people, especially on social media, reacting to why somebody said what they said, or didn't do, or did this and didn't acknowledge you but acknowledge them. Like, there can be so many issues on social media where you are reacting to people's behavior, and we have to remember that we don't know why people are doing what they're doing or not. I'm never offended anymore that someone hasn't engaged with me. Like, it doesn't mean that that person doesn't like me. And I think so many people can end up feeling stuck.
Yeah. It's also, I think it creates such a big issue for people that they feel if they haven't got enough likes, it means no one likes them. And then that leads to other consequences, possibility for some people with their health, with their fears. And it can stem so deep, especially for younger ones as well, when it's all based on how many likes you've got, how many friends you've got.
Yeah, I think the engagement algorithm that was designed has actually caused so many problems. I've spoken to women who've given up their businesses because they just assumed, well, they were rubbish at it.
Yeah.
Because of how they've interpreted the reaction of engagement.
Yeah.
So firstly, P, protect yourself. Just visualize that bubble. Now, I also love it because if someone directs something at you, a flippant comment, you can imagine it bouncing off your bubble and going straight back to them.
Yeah. Funny enough, in my head, I had this vision of words just hitting this little bubble and boing.
Yeah. Boing.
Yeah.
Bye. Back to the owner. Thank you very much. And then the A is to assess the situation. So once you've grounded yourself and you're safe in your bubble, really assess the situation. Is this you? Is this your behavior? Or is this them? Really think about it. Then the you, understand, come from an understanding place for yourself and for them. Can you figure out what's actually happening here? So once you've assessed it, have you come to your own conclusion of what's actually going on? Was this person necessarily mean to you? Or were you just feeling a little bit sensitive because you were overtired and you maybe interpreted something the wrong way? Have you come to a conclusion on whether it was your stuff or it was their stuff?
Yeah.
So once you know what the result is of that, then you can set a new boundary. So that's where the S comes in. So let's say it's feeling the pressure of needing to do social things and feeling unable to say no. I'm really busy this weekend, I've got a lot on, but you don't know how to, so you end up saying yes to something that you don't really want to do. So set your new boundary, work out for yourself, what is your number? How many social events do you want to do in that month? Are you someone that needs to do something every week, a couple times a week? You're a really active person, or are you somebody who's quite empathic, you like your own space, and one meetup a month is enough for you? Like, who are you? What is your number? I mean, I'm a 1, and that's pushing it. I can quite easily hide for 2 or
I'm
3
feeling
months.
along there with you, those lines, yes. I'd
Oh.
pushed myself and done more, and then I think, so what am I doing?
So once you've set that boundary and you know who you are and what you can cope with, what your energy can cope with, then you can plan to that and say, right, Jackie, yeah, absolutely. Once a month with Jackie. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Easy. I can cope with that. It's my number. It's not pushing me too much. And then you can start booking that time in. And then if something else comes along, then you're in a position to be able to say, already booked and busy for February, my one event. How's April for you? You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
when you know your boundary, set it and stick to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what's important, isn't it? It's putting them down. And I often think, in fact, the illustration I use quite often is you get your ping pong balls with all the important things, you put them in the jar, and then you put your little stones in after. Try doing it the other way around. It does not work. Literally, if you've got a jar, you've got a jar of sand, and you try putting all the sand in, you cannot get all the balls in. People use it with rocks or stones, but if you think of that, of the things, if we put what we feel our balance or our boundaries are, and then we put them all in that jar, then everything else has to go around it. And so if they get done, they get done. And if they don't get done, it doesn't matter. You've got the main things in that you need, or you need set for you. And I think that is so important. So for example, for me, would go through my head, would think, right, family time, certain other things that you know are non-negotiables, therein having your boundaries. Okay, so we're going to put on there 4 networking events in a month, or 4 specific recordings a month, if whatever,
So
or
you're
one.
getting quite
you.
high now, Jackie.
I know, I was
hang on.
thinking that's the service, but we need to come down a peg or 2 here, don't we? You put those in, they're in, that's it. And then everything else could juggle around it. And if it gets done, it gets done. And if it doesn't, if you don't get a like, well, does it matter? No, because you've done the things you wanted to do.
And if you're doing it from a place of serving others, and you're doing it from your heart because you've enjoyed writing that piece or recording that piece, you can skip to the kitchen when you make a cup of tea and know that you've shown up for yourself. That is why you're doing what you're doing, or showing up for yourself, and you're helping other people. It is not about getting that validation.
Exactly. And that, I think, is so important, that when we help others, we've given value. And that value, nothing can replace that. If you've given that from your heart, and you've given value to something that can take home and use, there's nothing. It's a bit like, sometimes you read a review, don't you, or a testimonial that a client has sent you, and you think, wow, there's nothing better than that, to read and think, actually, I impacted one person's life today. And if that's all we do, then that's what it's about. It's not about impacting 100 people's lives, but actually nobody's made any changes and nobody's benefited from that. Then you know, that's sort of, that's not the point, is it? It's not what we're aiming for.
Exactly. And then we have our E. So E is to evaluate. And I wanted to make it really clear to everybody that just because you set a boundary doesn't mean you can't edit it or change it afterwards. You've got to go back and evaluate, is what you set up for yourself working? And if not, change it. You're allowed to change your mind.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's important, isn't it? It's a constant reflection as well. when we evaluate something, we're constantly looking back and saying, is that working for me?
Mhm.
Does that need to be changed? And that's where our balance comes in, isn't it? It's not like, oh, we set the rules, that's it. We've got to stick to that. Because then we find actually we're starting to get overwhelmed. We're starting to feel unbalanced. We're starting to feel those boundaries are being encroached. Then we've got to go, whoa, reevaluate.
Mm.
Let's have a look. Okay, I need to change that, or I need to put that back in place. Oh, I've stopped doing that.
Mhm.
That's why I've not put that bubble around me. I've not done
Mhm.
this and I've not done that. And so it's important to evaluate that on a regular basis as well. To make sure those boundaries, and if we're happy with that, then fine. And if we're not, then look to see where we need those changes.
Mm.
You know?
Absolutely.
And I think, yeah, I mean, looking after ourselves is just so important, because we don't. Let's face it, everyone else comes first, everyone else
Mhm.
becomes priority. And I can look back over the years and think, I wish I'd known what I know now 20 odd years
Mm.
ago,
Mm.
because life would have been different. And maybe we wouldn't have had some of the tough things that we did do, because it's after you look back and think, well, actually, I could have avoided all of that. But we didn't know that stuff then.
Mhm.
So the only thing we can do is think, well, what we learn now, implementing it now and making those changes. Can't change the past necessarily, but we can move forward in a better way and improve our quality of our life. And I think,
Yeah. Take your visualization bubbles, your bergamot, and your tapping with you.
yeah, love it. So are you there, girls? We got a bubble. We have a bottle of bergamot because it's very uplifting if you haven't watched one of our lives. And some tapping. Now, not tapping on the outside of that bubble, though. We want to be tapping on the inside to bounce those words off.
Yeah.
Eh?
Yeah. No.
I love it. I just wanted to
Mm.
share you with some thoughts in here. Actually, this is it's all about emotions, and I've got to find the right page now. And it was about mindfulness, and it talked about how scientists are actually saying now it's a valuable method for treating people. And I think we've just talked about that, and it talks about people maybe that have been traumatized or suffered with mental or emotional health as a result of that, and how mindfulness is so important. And I
Mm.
think setting those boundaries really is all about mindfulness, isn't it?
Mhm.
It's all about controlling those emotions and being in control instead of just letting things happen.
Mhm.
Um, and it talked about children can grow up with different memories of blame, self-esteem, low self-esteem, and then that can follow us through our lives. And so really, if we can take that conscious time to actually change those habits and those practices. I know you often talk about habits and
Mm.
what habits we've set in and how to change them. And it still sticks in my head, which you when you said about if you want to start a new habit, link into something you're already doing.
Mhm.
And I think that's so key. So if we want to find that balance, set those new boundaries, then try and attach it to something that will help us to remember that to do that. And I
Yeah.
think that was a really key visual point for me. So we've got to
Mm.
attach that bubble to something. We're going to have lots of things in this bubble. I can see a picture in my head.
It's usually brushing teeth or
Yeah,
something that you have been genuinely doing since you were a child. I recently had a beautiful session with a one-to-one client, and she has this specific activity that she does first thing in the morning before she does anything else. Without fail, she does this one thing. So I said, great, that new tapping routine I showed you, you're going to attach that to that. So you're going to do that with it.
yeah,
Because I think it's something like 85% of the reason why we fail is because we forget.
yeah, definitely. And even with me, with tapping, and that's what I do. Um, day you get up and you get rushing off doing other things, and then you suddenly think, oh, day's gone by and I haven't done it.
Mhm.
And your tip was link it to cleaning your teeth. Not quite got there yet. Linking it to the teeth, because it's like, I need to do that first. But we'll get there. We link it in the day at some
Yeah.
point. But yeah, so I think they're things that are key for our balance and our self-care. And I think, you know, if we can address those issues and those underlying issues, then that's the starting point, isn't it, of actually moving forward and changing whatever that is. And I know you do trauma care, because it talks about here about trauma and resolving those issues and those, and whereas I work on the mental health side of things, you are, but in a different way to me. And I think, but the thing is once we recognize that underlying issue, then we can start to move forward and start to implement some of these things we've talked about in small ways. And then if we need more help, then we need to reach out. We need to reach out and get that advice and get that training to help us to really work on those deeper issues. And I think that's really important. So if people are ready, it talks about, are you ready for healing? Do you want to heal? Would the path of healing be too demanding? Is it too much of a hill to climb? And I think, you know, we've got to see where we are on that aspect of our health. Where do we want to be?
Yeah, and you do have to be ready. And I remember when I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
And when I wasn't ready, I was still in denial. I was still more comfortable making excuses, and I wanted to just watch YouTube videos privately to myself.
Yeah.
I didn't reach out, I didn't ask for help, didn't ask anyone questions. I was still in that place of thinking I can do this on my own. And, you know, it then gets to the point where you are more interested, you want to ask more questions, you want to learn more about how it's affecting the body. And when you move into that phase, you start to open up a little bit more and you can feel like you're ready. Because the thing about trauma is it's stuck in your body as well. It's not just mindset. So mindfulness is amazing, it's great, but the trauma is stuck in the memory of your cells. So a very key question that I always ask a client when we're talking about a feeling is, where is that now in your body?
Yeah.
Is it your throat?
Yeah.
Is it your chest? Is it your stomach? Where are you feeling that?
Yeah.
And then once we know where in the area of the body, we can then do exercises to help shift and release it.
Yeah.
And with boundaries, specifically with boundaries, with the word pause that I've shared with you today, if you go through all those steps, you can also do things like pushing your hands in front of you or even against a wall and pushing your body against a wall. With somatic healing, what you're creating is you're creating a mindset. You're setting a boundary and you're pushing against a wall, reinforcing it with muscle memory.
Yeah.
So your body recognizes the boundary. It's a physical thing. If you want someone's negativity to stay away from you, you tense and cross your arms across your chest, because part of protecting, we've got a visualization bubble, but if we get the muscles working with our mind, it helps to clear and it helps your body to remember what it is you're doing for yourself. So it's fascinating how it works both together at the same time.
Muscles are a memory, aren't they? It's a, you know, and obviously for me, energies and frequencies are a memory and a pattern within the body. I mean, for me, I'm looking at diseases, so it doesn't mean those diseases necessarily are still there, but they leave an energetic pattern in the body, and we have to work through that and work through that blockage. And like you say, you know, some of those things we can actually do by doing repeat episodes. So for me, I would be looking at tapping and how we're talking with that with words and rewiring. And you're doing it with physical movement for them. So it's so important to rewire, isn't it? The body's energy memories, because everything in life, the body holds a cellular memory to it. So we need to change that memory to make those changes.
Absolutely.
That's been really brilliant, Sam. Thank you ever so much for today.
So welcome. It's a pleasure to come back and chat with you, Jackie, always.
And I look forward to next month.
Yes, we'll be seeing.
Yes. And so we're going to be now, everything's going to be going over for both of us. Sam also has a podcast as well. And we're going to be sharing these on YouTube, so you can access them and watch them whenever you need to as well. So come and check us out, find out where we are. We'll be here once a month for you. Well, actually twice a month, because I'm in Sam's in the following month. And we'll be sharing all our tips and things that we found that work for us and work for our clients as well.